There we go. We're recording. So, good morning. Welcome to Marriage Interviews, session number 4.
Lovely.
So, don't feel nervous, all right? You're amongst friends here. So, there's a bit of a method to our madness as well, because this gives you guys a chance to get to know Melissa and Nick a little bit as well. And I know they're fairly honest and authentic about their struggles and things like that. Oh, that's a bit of a leading statement. We've all been honest and authentic. So we're just going to go through the questions this morning, and obviously they're just fixtures on our little journey together this morning, so we can branch out as required. Right. You can ask me questions now and again if you want, if that'll make you feel better.
You can explain Melissa a bit to me.
So Nick, I know we'll probably get into that later, but remember Mum and Dad may well listen to this later, so don't feel nervous. All right.
That changes a lot of things. Swap seats.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, maybe we could just get off the program just a little bit. What were your first impressions of our family, Nick? You weren't ready for that one, were you? Not me.
Sounds like
He was most petrified about meeting you, I think.
Yeah, I still remember meeting Adrian.
Yeah, you weren't that scared though, were you?
Yeah. He was really scared.
It's all relative.
What were you scared about? What
were you scared about, honey?
Let's not go there.
Are you still scared?
Are you
You're
still
not scared. I'm just a teddy bear.
I'm scared of Kerry now.
Yeah. No, I think Adrian's a bit of an enigma in our house, don't you? You were like...
Yeah, you were because you'd been away the whole time. So I think you're overseas, weren't you? Or deployed, or...
I think, we just got back from America when we met you.
Yeah, so you were the... Well...
I've never met you, yeah.
So who's like, dating or single? So, we can remember those times when you're going to meet the family, and one of them flies, war machines, and is on secondment in America, and you're about to meet him for the first time, and he's the big brother, and so kind of everything on the list.
And you were engaged, weren't you, at this time? Or were you?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think you were.
I think so.
Yeah.
So that
and I hadn't met you yet, so...
Yeah. So we'd gone a fair way. The first impressions of family, it was so different from, it was kind of opposites, which was great. It's very, very educational.
Yeah. So Nick's family.
So I grew up in Brisbane with just one younger sister, who's 5 years younger than me. So it wasn't a quiet household, but it was...
it talked a lot, though.
Yeah.
I remember you hugged a lot, which I liked.
Which I didn't know we hugged a lot, but the Parks have told me we hug a lot.
I like it.
So I guess close family. Grew up in a great church, so I'd say a strong family, just 2 kids, city, big church, Pentecostal upbringing, kind of coming into a country, large family Baptist, smaller church setting, and it's kind of like take the opposite of each thing on my list, and it was Melissa and her family.
Yeah.
So
I found his family.
Yeah, go ahead. What were your first impressions coming out of our perfect family with no issues whatsoever?
Yeah, absolutely. Until you press pause.
That's right.
No.
We can edit stuff out later.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I found his family. They're not going to listen, so I can be honest, right? I love them now, but it took me a long time to really understand their dynamics. It was so different. 6 kids and mum and dad, everyone was just all in, weren't they? They were just, everyone talked over each other. And Nick's family are really great with the communication, so they would ask deeper meaningful. It was all about us, and I found that really overwhelming. I just it was question after question about how we were feeling.
So they like to talk to you, whereas and you found that intimidating because it was very focused, whereas I found. Came into the Park family and everybody talks, just not to anyone. It's just...
And you
just
guys
sit
did
and
hug a
everyone
lot.
has conversations.
Adrian enjoyed
Yeah.
the hugging. I didn't.
Yeah,
Because-
you got
yeah.
overwhelmed by the touching, and I'm like, why does no one go near each other?
So yeah, I mean, I think we'll get to it later, but it was probably one of our biggest struggles, the two different families coming, bringing
Yeah.
those two into one place. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Hey, I'm just thinking, can I get you two to swap?
yeah.
Just because I think Nick's voice is a
Yeah,
bit
that's
loud.
right.
There we go. That's right.
So you get to the right spot in the end.
So I remember, because you came in at quite a, I don't know, an interesting, almost eccentric family blend with us too. You know, schizophrenic cats and
Yeah.
things like. Is it schizophrenic?
Epileptic.
Epileptic. Sorry.
The disabled petting zoo. That's what we call it.
Yeah.
And animals with problems.
Cows.
Yeah. Anyway, there's lots of stories from our place, but. What we might do then, we'll just keep tracking along with the questions. We'll try not to get off program too much there. But no, that was good. So that gives you a little bit of an intro there anyway. So you can answer in whatever order you like. That will give an indication of as to the health of your relationship.
It's a score.
Oh, didn't you know you're being assessed?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's all right.
so when you met, was it love? We'll talk about how it was when you met, how you met, and was it love at first sight?
No.
No.
No, it was attraction at first sight
Yeah.
for me, definitely.
Yeah.
And Melissa, I don't mind what you say. It's too late now. I don't really care. Yeah, it was. It was. Melissa stood out to me. I can still remember walking into church, and that's where I saw Melissa for the first time in camp. So I'd moved from Brisbane to Canberra and didn't know many people, and knew one guy, and he found this church that had different services in different places, and so I think it was the second one I'd gone to.
Yeah.
And it was probably about this size. And I can still remember walking in and seeing Melissa worshipping, and she stood out to me amongst like kind of the young adults who were sort of congregated together, and yeah, went from there.
Yeah.
So what do you remember of Nick when you first saw
I
him?
remember first seeing him. I remember because there's not many boys in the church, so it was kind of exciting that two guys walked in. You could just see this line of girls going, "Ah." And then after that, we all know it's like that, right? Yeah, fresh meat. Yeah.
And my friend and I
Our church
had
is still like that.
codes and sign language to discuss because we were both in the band, so you get a really good view from the stage and back left. And
So is this all coming out in a single session, or
Yeah.
all the tips, the
Yeah, the tips.
rock and
might have to have another one after that?
yeah,
Remedial session.
the prayer session, recovery.
Yeah, but I did see him. But for me, my story's a little bit different. So I'd been mucking around for a few years. So for me, I was really cautious, and so I was very determined not to just date another guy. So my world, that was a real challenge for me. So
Because you're a naturally sort of outgoing person, and people engage you, and I think it's probably fair to say oftentimes you thought you were just being a friend with a boy, but a boy thought it was probably going a bit further and so forth.
I think I've had more marriage proposals than anyone else. It was awful. It was awful. It wasn't that nice. And so Nick still, teasing me about that. So I actually backed right off. I was a bit nervous.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise I was coming into a huddle of guys who Melissa had.
Had you had girlfriends before, or?
No.
I wasn't particularly successful at dating.
Which
I was
is
a bit
awesome.
clueless. Yeah, I was a bit
But
clueless.
you're musical and kind of, artistic and
I
creative.
know. How to explain it? Lord was protecting me.
Yeah.
No, I was just. Yeah, I don't know.
You were really clueless.
A bit clueless.
You were still clueless with me. You'd ring me,
silly.
and asking me out was asking me to borrow an air mattress, and that was a bit of a thing. I'm
Yeah,
like,
okay.
sure, you can borrow
First
my air
contact.
mattress, and I thought that was
Yeah.
that was the first contact. Yeah. So
Yeah,
So
I was
I eventually
hopeless.
asked him out. Eventually.
Yeah. So when did you think, or what point did you go, hey, this might lead to marriage? Like,
and this is sort of one of the things I was going to share in the singles. I'll kind of go over it a bit more, but we started hanging out in small groups, I guess, and with the young adults, and Well, the funny part of it is Melissa, you must have been going home or something, going on holidays, and you had a cat, and someone needed to feed the cat, so I got the really important job of keeping the cat alive. And I went over, and I don't know if any of you can remember, but there was a book at a time by a Christian author, and it sort of was all the rage for a season about dating. It was I Kissed Dating Goodbye. Does anyone remember that?
Yeah.
So I'm interested in this girl, but not sure where it's all at. Yeah. And I've got the keys to her house to go over and feed the cat.
Not the epileptic cat.
No,
cat.
Just the annoying cat. And so I go over to feed the cat, thinking this is going alright. I got the keys. I'm looking after the cat. You know, if I keep it alive, that's probably some brownie points. And then there's this book sitting on the golden table that says I Kissed Dating Goodbye. Okay, maybe I'm reading this all wrong. There's something entirely different here going on. So that kind of was challenging. But Melissa said, and this is one of the wisest things I've ever heard anyone say early on, said, if there is any reason this can't lead to marriage, then then there's no point in us doing this at all. No, so not,
not will you marry me?
And so that would be, that I think is one of the best questions to ever ask in any kind of pre-marriage situation. If there is any reason at all, then let's not put off the inevitable. Let's not waste each other's time. Let's not create baggage for either of our future spouses. Let's not.
As with any sort of Christian books, there often tends to be a little bit of a kickback, and one of the kickbacks is, well, how then do you get to know people? Like, cause you, all of a sudden, like, what would you say to some people who are sort of thinking towards a future and go, well, how do you get to know someone? Is it just like, I know he went through courtship and all that kind of stuff. But
and that's, I guess that's, again, in the singles thing I might talk a little bit more about, but I think dating is just too often dating is seen as practice for marriage, when it should be preparation. It should be about learning about somebody, and I think that's why I was so bad at it, because I kind of loaded it up too much. Probably should be more about friendship and developing, learning how to develop friendships, and then seeing, okay, is there a compatibility, and does this have the potential to lead somewhere, as opposed to doing nothing until there's the assumption with very little information up front that, this might be a big ticket.
We still dated. We did actually date. That wasn't why I read the book. I don't actually remember leaving the book out. But, but I had been, so I was so determined at that point in my life not to muck around anymore. So to me, it was a big deal in my world. So I was reading anything I could get my hands on.
It could have been. It could have been worse. It could have been a book called The Bliss of Singleness.
Yeah, that's right.
That's an in-house joke. I'll explain that to you later.
How old are you guys at this point? Just out of curiosity.
So
19 or
I was.
No,
I was 20. I turned to. You were at my 21st, so I was 20.
And I'm older, so I was
23.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it obviously did lead to marriage, otherwise we wouldn't be doing marriage interview session 4. What examples, both good and bad, did you have of marriage? And it doesn't have to be bad in a bigger sense. But
we've some bad ones.
So maybe do good. Oh, let's do bad first and end on a high. So bad examples or bad traits in marriage or whatever that you had, that you'd been soaking in or exposed to before you got married.
I'll do the bad ones. So we because we came into the church separately, and it was a church plant, so it's quite new and exciting, and so we got married and have been really mentored by the pastors who were we were there to serve them, just build the kingdom together, I guess. And so that was probably a huge one for us. They probably had a pretty warped marriage view. It was all about kind of sacrificing your marriage for the ministry, and and very much about not putting family first, and church comes before anything else, and all that sort of stuff. So we'd spent quite a few years under that, our dating and everything, and
hadn't realised it until we got married, and then in the early stages of ministry, like very early,
real early,
in a 6-month period around marriage, and then and then heading towards ministry.
Yeah.
That it was a completely wrong perspective.
Really warped.
Yeah.
And he asked us on staff. They asked us on staff, and so we ended up on staff. And I remember within 2 weeks, I was sitting down with a friend of mine, Nat, and just said, I don't see how a marriage can survive this, because it was we were brand newly married, and like in 2 weeks it was like I hadn't seen him. I was shift working and Nick was just at the office, and it was just a bizarre deal going on. So we weren't asking the questions, but we probably should have, looking back. But,
because in the end they sacrificed both, really.
They did, yeah. So 5 weeks after Nick went on staff, he admitted to a long-term affair.
Not me, the other guy.
How much older than you were they at the time?
They were nearly 30, I think.
So
I can remember going to his 30th. So sort of 7, 8.
They'd been married 10 years.
Mentoring kind of role.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they'd been married 10 years when he got caught. So for us that was a huge deal, because we just sort of went, well, what is ministry then? Because we felt called to ministry, but we just couldn't see how you do it and have a family, let alone
so we were
kids
told
to the
that
mix.
those things were going to be held in an uneasy tension, and then it was very quickly proven that was a very uneasy tension, and it was blown up.
And it'd be easy to go, oh, that's how Pentecostals do it, but I'll tell you that on the mission field, with, I won't say the denomination, but they were the same. It was like, right, you kids, you get sent away somewhere, and it's all about the ministry.
And I know that family and their second generation and their marriages are all broken up and sad. And
the kind of redemptive side to that was that as soon as that happened, we had, within a week, I think we had a state gathering of our churches. We went up to that a bit shell-shocked, completely shell-shocked.
Yeah.
And the then national director of our movement of churches
bought us a coffee.
Took the time out of his schedule running quite a busy, large conference, sat us down and said, everything you've been told about ministry and marriage is wrong. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
As far as we're concerned, if you're married, if you don't have marriage, you don't have a ministry. Not that you can't be single in ministry, but if you're a married couple, your marriage is the foundation of your ministry, not the other way.
Yeah, and that was so releasing. And he was an older guy. He would have been he's about 60 now, so I don't know. But and he just, like, I don't know, from that moment on, C3, the denomination just kept pouring into our marriage, and so in terms of a good example, the other side to that is all the people that we've had in our life since, all the pastors that are older than us, wiser than us, doing amazing things for the kingdom. And just pouring into us and telling us you don't actually have to sacrifice.
And treating us together in ministry.
And so you've had, like, within your movement, many more good examples of marriage than bad.
Absolutely.
Because the other struggle for you too, just still on the bad side, was that the person that you were talking about before, he actually married you.
Yes.
He did. Did you just want to talk just a bit about that, about someone? Because I remember you talking about it after. Because you can imagine he's married them, he's gone through, he's talked about the gospel
into ministry, and done that, all that.
It's still hard to understand how he compartmentalised, because he did, how he kind of lived that world and then saw a church kind of grow. I still don't get that, to be honest.
It's still strange when you look at some of the wedding photos and see that person.
I don't have those ones up,
really. Pick someone,
I think
someone else in there.
It's a beautiful moment, though, that I lean on, and my oppa, so our granddad, as much as this pastor married us, there was a moment that that oppa, actually got us up the front and prayed a blessing on us over our marriage. And I've got this photo.
That's the photo.
And that's the photo. And that, to me, is where we actually got married, I guess, in that moment when he prayed a blessing. And he made us kneel down in the dirt. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, the dress. And,
you've already fallen in the hill and
I had,
in the grass.
No, that would happen later. But
you used to say the dress has got dirt and grass.
The dress was pretty ruined by the end. But he did. He kneeled us down, and before God, he anointed our marriage. And that was the moment I just cling to now. Even these days, I look at that photo.
Yeah.
That was when it was anointed. Because Oppa saw a marriage, how many years? 50
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
over 50.
50
so.
years of a godly
Yeah.
lead in his family. So
It's so interesting you brought that up because I forgot about that because I brought up exactly the same thing in our
did you?
marriage, how he had us kneel down
Oh,
and pray
really?
for us, yes,
Yeah,
and pray for more love
So
every
that's-
single year. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's that's the photo
Yeah.
we've
That's
got up
our
on the
photo.
wall of,
Yeah.
of our wedding.
On a
Sort of
shelf.
what
Yeah.
it was to us.
Yeah.
Anyone got any questions before we keep going on the next one? What were you really ignorant of when you got married?
Everything.
The family dynamic.
Yeah, family. Yeah, you could probably unpack that. Family dynamics.
Yeah, I found the family dynamics huge. So I didn't realise what a leaving it would be. So it's probably taken 10 years, I reckon, to get to a point where I feel...
As in you leaving home?
Yeah,
leaving and cleaving.
Yeah.
That was huge for me.
It was just
In
like,
what way?
let's put it all
Like-
together.
Like,
Yeah.
because I'll
Have you talked about this as well?
no, we haven't. It hasn't come up before. But for me, I left to go to the military because so. But yeah, you were the girl, I suppose. Maybe is it a bit different for a girl or?
It was for me. I don't know if anyone else experienced it as a wife, but I just found that whole concept of putting someone else as like first in my life, outside God, of course, But so Nick was meant to be my kind of, leader and my, my husband. Yeah, all of that, And so for me, I struggled. I actually really grieved, I think, for a little while. And I love Mum, but is she going to listen to this? Because I think we probably didn't help each other, Mum and I.
Yeah.
We, I'd call her every day, and even though I'd moved out when I was 17, so I'd been out of home a long time, and I still had this constant need, and it had gone beyond a healthy thing at that point. I don't know if Mum would agree with that, but it did go beyond a healthy thing, and so it's taken it probably 10 years, I think, to really understand that in myself and go, well, and Mum was amazing in a lot of ways. I remember we had a big blue one day, and I was going to drive home to Mum. So that's what you do. And I rang her, and she said, if you come home, you'll have to drive 4 hours back. Like, you are not stepping foot inside this house. So Mum was really good like that. She just kind of, she kept turning me back, but then there was this weird sort of, but I'm losing my daughter. And I can't imagine what that's like now that I have a daughter. I don't know how you process that. That's, I'm sure was talked in the 30 and 40 years married. But, so she did really, do a good job in that sense. But at the same time, there was a weird connection that needed to be broken.
Yeah. So how were you processing it, when all this was sort of happening?
It was a bit tough, wasn't it?
First 2 years, that was probably our biggest challenge.
Yeah, okay.
And we still had a great.
So did you talk about it, or did you sort of go away and simmer? Or, how did it
we
work?
talked about it a bit. I think probably came up the first combined phone bill I looked at. And that was a little bit before the, the caps and the, it was like when you did pay for every phone call, and there's that like 50 cent or $1 flag fall for an STD call, and then 30 cents a minute or something. And I remember looking at the phone bill, thinking, wow, how did that work? And looking at, okay, it's a lot of phone calls, and looking at it and thinking, there's 7 phone calls in one day. Some of them within 3 minutes of each other, and most of them average 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And like, what's going on?
Yeah, it wasn't
it was, and it was at that level. It was probably 30 calls a week, probably sort of.
Yeah.
It was. I don't know if it felt like I was competing in some way, probably attention-wise.
Yeah.
And I think with the shift work and those things...
And church.
And church sort of feeding in there, it was sort of like probably the bulk of your time alone was spent, there was... You were getting more input from your family than from me, probably in those early days, and there was still a lot of... You were still very engaged because you had all younger siblings as well.
Yeah.
You were still engaged in that part of life a lot.
Yeah.
So that I think it took us a couple of years to realise that it was probably needed changing. So I don't think I sat in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of marriages just in our ministry that have struggled, probably not to that extent maybe, but that do struggle with it. And I don't think we talk about it very often, that separation for a daughter in particular. I don't know if guys go through it, but for a daughter to actually leave and cleave takes a bit of grief as well, and it takes a decision and a bit of a process. So I think we've seen it a lot in younger marriages, and when the kids come again, like I think that's another season, not so much for us because we're interstate, but like away from our parents, but I've seen it in marriages where, you know, the kids come along and suddenly the parents are all there and the husband's kind of, okay, well, where do I fit now? You know, like, I don't...
We probably didn't realise that marriage is in a lot of ways a rite of passage. It is a transition point.
Yeah.
I notice more and more when I go to our friends' houses or it's people in church and you look at the wedding photos. And I don't know if people here would attest to that, but we look at, say, the people who are in our bridal party, for example, and they are, when you think at the time, that's like the big decisions, who's going to be there. They're the besties, they're the closest, and often they're not into that next season of your life.
No.
And yeah, that sort of, to me, became quite profound after a while, and I realised how much of a transition moment it is, and it is the moving from one season of life into another, and I think we missed that initially. We didn't quite realise that it was a shift into a new season. And it was just like, oh no, we just bring everything together, and now there's just two of everything. And we kind of put all that together, and we've got more of everything, and away we go.
Yeah. So what are the best things about your marriage?
We're a team. I mean, that's really cool. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
So you can give, how does that look like? Like, what's some examples? Like, obviously, talking about strengths and weaknesses, maybe complement each other.
Yeah, we're so opposite that it works.
So in what way? What are the opposites?
Well, even the family, the family spectrums that kind of set us up for dealing with things like when we're dealing with the kids. They are. One of them looks like me and acts like Melissa, and the other one looks like Melissa and acts like me. So we help each other out there. Like, I don't know, you guys are clashing, so we work well in partnership like that. And for us, ministry has always been a partnership, and I think we feel really, really blessed by that. I don't know if either of us had that sort of aspiration to that degree level individually, but together, it's become something far more than we could have expected.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about that in a minute, because for you guys, ministry, church has been inextricably linked and connected to your marriage.
Yeah, we don't know it without it.
When you're dating.
Yeah.
So...
so I don't know, other things like best things.
Best things about the team. I mean, I feel very released by Nick. Like, while still him leading the home, I feel like he still wants me to, succeed and do what I'm good at, even in raising the kids or within church. He'll always kind of release me to be who I'm meant to be as well. So I don't feel ever like submitting to Nick is a hard thing in that sense. I feel like that's quite easy for me. I'm sure it changes for different couples, but I just know Nick is wanting the best for me. So it's always about, how can I help you do that? And Nick will turn to me and say, look, you're obviously, maybe about the kids or something. He'll be like, hey, how do you think I should handle this situation? Because, I see different parts of the kids because I'm there all the time, and so I feel like we're a real team in that sense. I think we have a lot of fun together as well. I think we're really silly and I think in ministry and work, we're all working crazy hours. We're all, running kids from here to there, and just to really slot in a bit of silliness. Nick's we call him our holiday Nick, when he just sort of arrives and gets all silly and fun, and the kids are like, oh, this is great. So there's not many nights that go past where there's not a lot of laughter in our home, which I love and I'm really grateful for, which you kind of bring in more than me. Probably I get a bit intense at times. But Nick will be wrestling the boys on the floor or whatever, and I'll be like, oh, someone's going to break something. So I think that's a really great thing in our marriage.
Nice. Anything else you want to add? Best of?
Best of. We've had lots of adventures together. I think we've really. I think sounds like we're repeating, but we've just done so much of it together that I feel very realising how blessed we are to do that, not to be trying to put together two really separate lives. We've been able to share a lot of experiences, and I don't know. We often talk to couples who talk about the tough years, or that And not that there haven't been some really, really tough times, I guess, in the context that we were married, but it hasn't felt like those tough times have been between us.
Yeah.
So it hasn't. I can't say that there were all those that bad year there, or those, probably last year in some ways probably our toughest year, but it still wasn't between us. It was just life.
Yeah.
It was challenging, and so it's always felt like we're tackling stuff together.
Yeah.
I guess we've always made, just on that, I think we've always made a decision to turn, we were counselling couples who don't talk to each other for a week or something, and we've just never allowed that to take hold. There are times I don't want to talk to him for a week, but I always make myself, and I'm going to talk to the ladies about when we chat about that sort of stuff, but I've always made myself and made a decision, like we're in control of our, of how these tricky times pan out. And so I always, and Nick does too, we always make a decision to turn to each other, not away.
Yeah.
I remember Mum and Dad even saying that. They never went to sleep facing opposite ways. And I think that's such a great example, to kind of, always be facing one another, just don't turn away, And
then you breathe on each other, it gets all...
Yeah, but then you turn around and
Just a metaphor.
It's a metaphor.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Just ask questions as required, guys. Sorry, I should have said that.
Just in that dynamic you've just talked about, is there one of you that sort of comes for the other more than the other? Like, I'll just be honest, Tiff does a much better job than I do.
Like
to say sorry or something.
I sort of bottle it up and I can go quiet. But with you guys, is it, everyone told us even on our wedding day, don't let the sun go down in your anger.
Yeah.
And you go, we won't do that. And then, sometimes it can happen, when you do, you just go to sleep and talk to each other. But with you guys, is it a 50-50 thing, or is there one that does it better than the other? Or?
He says sorry,
I'm not sure if the mic will pick that up. So the question is basically about, who comes for the other. Is there someone who comes in that time of argument or conflict?
Yeah. I hope I'm learning, but he's better at it than me. Nick would say sorry quicker.
Do you think that's the man's role in some ways to initiate restoration? Look, it's not. I'm just interested in as a leadership kind of thing.
I think it's definitely a leadership issue. I probably realise that more now.
Yeah.
I think initially it's to be honest for me, it's a little bit of a family of origin thing with talkers, talk it out.
Yeah.
Like resolution. Which I go too far on because I want everything resolved.
He'll say sorry, but then it'll be like, but we just need to make sure it's all fixed.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, let's
sometimes
just move
sorry
on.
for me. Maybe it's a bridge to get a conversation going so that we can resolve this thing and you can actually hear what I needed to tell you. Maybe I don't know. But to me, it's just too much hard work. I don't want to. It's really hard work to stay mad. I just don't want to. I can't be bothered. So I'd rather, and I'm finding more and more having to that's become a real focus of prayer and leaning on the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And there's always that moment. I remember just talking about the pause at church. I think it was over the New Year period, Salah or however you want to pronounce that. Selah or the pause. Pause and think about that. And there's always a moment in between stimulus, input and response. And if you can find that little pause, you can reroute thinking and you can go deep breath. That's usually about as long as it takes. It's that moment of it. It's like, I don't need to hold on to this. I can actually, Holy Spirit just help me to.
It's interesting you say that because even in flying war machines, as you so eloquently, that's actually exactly what you do when the crisis happens. So if there's a light or an emergency, there's always what they call bold-face actions, but then there's the pause. It's like, take a deep breath, it oxygenates things. And I've often seen it in a spiritual sense as well. So take a deep breath prayerfully to pray, God, I'm going to need you right now. And So just quickly on that, when there is conflict, talk about just really briefly, how does that affect your ministry? Because presumably Sunday mornings could be ratcheted up. I mean, we all experience it, but for you guys, it must be ratcheted up. And I could really see how the enemy would be saying, Melissa and Nick, all right, what can we do tonight? What can we do this morning? So how does conflict between the two of you affect your ministry? I mean, like, because you guys are quite an outgoing thing, you know, you guys on your Sundays, you jump up there, I mean, how do you do that if you've had a fight? Like, how do you get up the front if you've had a fight? Like,
I don't think we've ever had a service. I hope this doesn't make us sound too good or something weird, but we fix stuff before we get up because we've got a responsibility. And you know what? I can remember one or two where we're about to get up, and Nick had just lean over and he goes, "Oh, I love you, honey," and it'll just change everything. And then I'm like, "Oh, thank goodness," because I wasn't sure what we were going to do here, you know.
Probably up until recently, though, it was far more me. Getting up to do that than you. I guess it's far more, you know, both of us now. But I wonder now, looking back, and especially been thinking about this while you're asking that question. I wonder if, for good or bad, ministry maybe enhanced that for us. Yeah. Because
almost made us have to. Yeah.
For me, especially, I can't go to work in that frame of mind. I can't go there and sit down and great. Sermon preparation time, you know, while I'm really mad at my wife, it just does. It just does not work. I'll go and sit down and, you know, counsel somebody while I'm seething on the inside. I wonder if that cycle
kind of makes us quick.
No, I enhanced that in some ways. It made us, and it's probably good and bad. You know, it's probably maybe it should have been more internally motivated, but at least we had that external motivated. So I got to keep short accounts because. Cannot do this.
Yeah. And we've had to learn that even with people in the church, you know. We just you just can't get up, you know, offended at someone. Like, it's just like, because you inevitably look at them.
Can't minister or preach or out of offence.
And I think for everybody else as well, I know with Kerry and I, like, if you've had conflict and there's some of the, like you call it the seething or it's really hard even to pray. I think the scriptures talk about that. It's very difficult to really relate to the Lord. You've got to kind of sort it out.
Just one of my favourite moments as a pastor is when I look around the congregation and you can see couples, you know, they're coming in and they're busy and the kids are going nuts and there's stuff going everywhere. And then just as the worship goes on, there's this moment where you just see someone, you know, or a husband put their arm around there. And I think that's part of what the body of Christ is about, is kind of joining together and, you know, that moment of, you know, just bringing things together, you know, in the busyness and craziness. And you may not have had a big blue on the way to church, but I kind of like to think that, you know, walking into worship softens things and, you know, just brings you back to that.
I think worship, I think you touched on something there. Worship, I can often worship or at least be in an atmosphere of worship before I can pray about things. Sometimes prayer is really, really hard. To, you need some stuff fixed, but you've got so much going on. Worship kind of.
I had a friend actually who told me he was a bit of a mentor, and he said, you know, like when you're feeling down or even could be angry or whatever, just start singing and praising God, because nothing has changed in terms of God's glory and God's greatness. It's you
it's
that's
the one
changed.
thing that can,
and the perspective shifts so quickly.
I think that's
it
awesome.
all looks really, really small.
And in terms of Saturday, Sunday morning, I think it's every Christian on the planet gets hammered Saturday night, Sunday morning. We were actually praying for all of you guys even this week. Well, I was, I don't know if you were, but just because I knew that there would be a battle on it. It doesn't surprise me there's sickness and all that, because, you know, there's something that likes to stop us doing this stuff. So, you know.
That's really good, guys. We'll keep moving along, though. We'll just answer this one really quickly, just for the sake of time. So, if you go back 1 week before you got married, what would be the one thing you would tell yourself? Maybe you go first, Nick.
Yeah, they're good.
If anything, maybe.
In some ways, I would.
Maybe, Mark.
Okay.
You can do the walk of shame now. That's good. Have you guys?
In some ways, I got asked this question about ministry recently, and it'd be a little bit the same. What would you tell your 20-year-old self or whatever about ministry in a pastors' conference we're talking about? I'd say similar to marriage-wise, that it'll be, the ministry one I said it'll be tougher than you ever imagined. I wouldn't say that about marriage, not that it'll be tougher, but it'll be more complex than you'd ever imagine, but it'll be far more worthwhile than you can imagine as well. So whatever your perspective of it is, it's quite small at the start there. Allied to that, I would have just said, invest in this the rest of your days. This will be your greatest investment.
Yeah, cool. Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, I like what he said, but mine's probably a bit more simple. I think just get really easygoing. Just like put on the phlegmatic hat and go, you know what?
Yeah.
In the long run, if he doesn't, I don't know, pick up your undies from the bathroom floor, is that the end of the world? You know, because it is those small things that.
Is it, Kerry?
Yeah. It does if it starts to smell or something. I don't know, but I don't know. Like I think that, and having babies, I just was like, well, get super easygoing.
That's a great segue to the next question, which is what happened when kids came along. But just on that point, I think God's really gifted you, Melissa, with that ability to, and I know it's probably not like that all the time, but yeah, just to kind of be easygoing about stuff, some pretty serious things, which we'll probably talk about here in a minute. So yeah, that's really good. So yeah, what happened when kids came along? So you're married, you're in pastoral ministry, you've had all these kinds of things going on, and Isaiah's born.
Isaiah is awesome.
So how old is he now?
So he's 9 now.
So 2 boys, 1 girl.
Yeah, so 9, and then a 7-year-old boy is Samuel, and then Adeline's 3, just turned 3 years on Monday.
So they're with Nick's parents at Lennox Heath at the moment, enjoying a bit of grandparent
just
time.
Far enough away.
Yeah. So I just look at all the parents, like, salute you guys, you're amazing. Like,
and at the same time go, yes, our kids.
Yeah, and at the same time sort of enjoy them.
Yeah.
They're awesome kids. So Zai came along,
and he
9 years ago.
Kind of.
He owned us.
Yeah, but he also fit into life. We were told, who was it? I can't remember who said this to us, but it was wise, that you're not a family when the kids come along. You already were a family, and children come and become a part of the family. That didn't suddenly make us a family, so it wasn't like everything had to change.
Yeah.
And so we were sitting in conferences when he was 6 or 8 weeks old, rolling around under the seat in front of us, and he kind of, we travelled with him pretty young. It changes everything. I think when kids come along, you suddenly start thinking, what do we used to do with all our time and money? And then you have 2 kids, you think, what did we do with all the time and money when we only had 1 kid?
I had this mum say to me, she had 4 kids who were all a lot older, and it was like, 1 kid takes up all your time, 2 children take up your... And she had 4 or 5 or something. And she just said, it doesn't matter how many you have, they just take up all your time, and I'm like, yeah, that's true, right? Like, we all... One child's easy, but it's not really. It takes up all your time.
Yeah, because right now you've got people, with younger kids and church and stuff. I mean, what would you say to them? Because there's those frustrating, even now, like, I wish I could just sit and listen, but we've got little Junior here, I've got to look after, what would you say to them?
I would say for the mums...
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. I would honestly, for the mums, just know that God meets you where you're at. So if you're sitting at the back with your toddler crawling all over you and you hear one sentence of a message or one moment that, just speaks to your heart, and it might be this one, then God's meeting meeting you where you're at. So many times, we were in church all the time, and not unhealthily so, mind you. Be wise, but I always knew that God would just give me that one sentence, and I'd ask him for it. As I walked in, I'm like, all right, I've got 3 babies here. I'm up the back, we're in the mother's room, wherever I am. What is it that you have for me today, God? Because there is one thing that you'll hear, and it'll bless you, good. So just know it will pass, but it's worth not disengaging. Everything in you will want to disengage. And we see it all the time. Don't sit it out, because you'll find you'll never come back.
Because the other thing too is that by, I think, your actions, even just sticking it out and going to church regularly, your kids see that from the very earliest age. And we were the same.
Exactly.
We see families now, and it just frustrates the heck out of me, who you can see it generationally. You see the kids have such a low respect for the house of God and so inconsistent, and then the parents are baffled. You think, well, you modelled that for so many years. And now you've forgotten what you modelled then. Sort of, you're trying to live differently now, but that you put that in them, and
dragging yourself out to a place like this, like, good on you. You should be so proud of yourself for being here with babies. Like, yay, parents! It's not easy. So
you just think we're clapping in this church, don't you?
Yeah.
We clap. It's not when there's music. We raise our hands sometimes. Hey, Luke, you and me?
Yawning.
So just
I reckon just with kids make you more of what you are. And they reveal more of what's in you. They mirror you. They reflect you. So I get when we find parents at church complaining about the kids, or it's ruined their children have ruined their marriage, or they've made us like this. I'm like, no, you were already like that. You've just now got another mirror in your world that reflects it. It's kind of broadcast it a little bit more. Like that's that whole they come into your family, not. They suddenly create your family. And so the pace of life maybe and the volume that you can deal with maybe changes, but the trajectory doesn't have to.
True.
So I think it is a unique season. It won't be repeated. It's got blessings and challenges that won't be repeated. This is not so much speaking from experience, but because we ask this a lot of people who are through that season, like, this will change one day, won't it?
Yeah.
And so just adjust your expectations as to what can be done, but don't change the game. Disengage.
Yeah. So just with the boys in particular and their, I guess what you could call life-threatening allergies.
Yeah.
I guess I want to approach this in two ways because it is an important question. So you're in a denomination, you're ministering, you get the boys, and that's hard enough as it is. Then you find out they've got allergies that are, they are life-threatening. We've been to the hospital.
And asthma, that's the big thing.
Yeah. You got Samuel, you were sharing yesterday, who was taught how to use the EpiPen himself at age 4. And then used
and
it
has self-administered it twice.
Yeah.
When he didn't need it.
So because of that.
On the way to church.
One at a church conference and one on the way to church.
Luckily our GP's in the church, so you got to sit with him for the day.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
Yeah, and and Isaiah, you were sharing a few weeks ago, probably a bit of PTSD now with being scared, not being able to breathe properly, and then running and feeling that same thing and go, what was that like for you? Because if I could just ask, because we're all about being raw, I guess. It's like you've asked for healing many times. Thought at times that he was healed, and then heartbreaking. No, it's still here. Just talking to that a bit.
Yeah, it's been a huge journey. So Zai was diagnosed. He reacted while I was breastfeeding. So I drank milk. I'm assuming it was dairy, and he came out in hives. We're like, okay, this baby's, doing something weird. And then the asthma kicked in. And so for years, we've had probably two trips a year at least. Yeah. In maybe 3.
And he's nearly died.
And he's nearly died a few times. And so what's happened with Zai, obviously, is with this PTSD, is he's overheard conversations in hospital. And now that he's just turned 9, apparently it's a big year. Hormonally and all this sort of stuff, and so he really feels like
aware of death more.
He's aware of his own mortality, and so he's having some panic attacks when he runs and puffs, or when he swims. Anything that kind of restricts his breathing, he thinks he's going to die, like quite legitimately. So he's a beautiful kid, but it's a new journey now. So I think in terms of praying for healing, we've never. People used to ask us when that pastor fell as well, like, isn't your faith shaken by that? Well, no. I mean, my faith was never in him. It was always in God. And we love and we serve the house of God and we love our pastors who look after us, but they're not God. And so my theory in healing isn't God. I truly believe God is a healing God and that he could snap his fingers and see Zaya healed, but I'm not in control of his journey. I'm not in control of, what Zaya learns through this. And so our constant prayer, I will never stop praying for healing for him until it's exhibited. Never. But my faith is in God as being supreme and knowing his deal. If I believed in a God who did what I wanted him to do all the time, well, how does that make him God? Does that make sense? And
that's God of our own creation.
Yeah. So suddenly I say to God, I'm sorry, but because you didn't heal my son, and now because all this is happening, well, I'm having a tantrum. Yeah. And you're in big trouble, mister. I don't know. That's not the kind of God I want to serve. I don't want God to be like that. I want God to know all and be all. So.
And yet you keep, because I had some insight in there. You keep praying for healing though. You don't, right?
Because we've experienced healing. We've experienced healing personally. We've prayed for people and seen them healed.
Yeah.
I believe I can remember sort of processing that at one point and saying, okay, what do I believe about that? Let me really try and figure this out. And if I really, that's where my belief lies, then I'm going to start to, because I think it was after a disappointing period, and you're like, no, I am going to wrestle my expectations back into line with my beliefs. Now, not my experience, but my beliefs.
Which are anchored in, how you read the Bible.
Anchored in the Word, completely.
Anchored in the Word and anchored in what God has spoken to us personally. I remember two really profound experiences on that journey. One was because I guess I made a commitment to just pray every night for the kids, and that's a core part of that prayer. And then just after a season, just thinking that's starting to feel like a really hollow prayer. And thinking, okay, and just continuing to pray that prayer, and it just felt really, really dry, really hollow. And then, and I've now sort of preached on this a few times, is that I feel like the Holy Spirit said to me that show me in the Word that prayer is actually about, one of the functions of prayer is about seeing things as God sees. Like we often pray, God, if only you could see what I can see, you'd do something about it. That's often the unknowingly what's behind a lot of our prayer is, oh God, if you could see it the way I see it, and you knew how much it mattered, you'd do something about it. But a lot of the function of prayer is for us to see things as God sees them. And also believe that faith is being, sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not yet see. And so wrestling with that a little bit and feeling like, okay, I've lost the ability to see what it would look like for Isaiah to be healed. So I don't feel like I'm actually praying a prayer of faith anymore. I feel like I'm dominated by, like if you think about the two sides of the old-fashioned scales, the scales of justice, Lady Liberty holds, and they sort of, and on one side we've got now mounting experiences in the negative in terms of Isaiah's health. It felt like the scale with the side of belief for healing and things to hang on to there had really lightened up. And so I felt like for a season it was actually about redressing that balance. And praying and saying, Holy Spirit, show me what's that look like. Just help me to see in a fresh way so that I can pray in a fresh way about this and maintain and sustain prayer for Isaiah in that. As long as it takes. Without it becoming dry and dead in our world. And then I can remember another time, and this is probably the most impacting, and it wasn't a resolution at all, but I can remember it was on my side of the family, some of the, like in much milder form, some of the things that I see my kids struggle with in that deadly form. And I think I heard someone say once that the enemy will piggyback on your circumstances often, and so I was, there were those thoughts. I'm thinking, wow. So that came, in a sense, through me.
So you blamed yourself in a way.
Just that awareness was sort of thrown in my face. And I can remember seeing, I think Isaiah, I watched him struggle with something, or maybe his asthma was bad, and I can remember just saying, God, I wish I could take that for him. But it was a real moment, because I felt like God said back to me, well, why? Because I have taken it. It's not your place. So that didn't lead to a resolution. That didn't see him healed, but that was a profound moment for me spiritually to understand. Okay, I'm not.
And I think that's so important to keep in mind too, is that ultimately the cross has brought ultimate healing, an ultimate super body that's coming for Isaiah, which will have no allergies, life. And it'd be so nice to see a glimpse of that now and to see him healed completely. But in one day he'll have that super body.
Exactly. And it was a moment
because of the cross.
That's right.
And it was a moment of deep conviction, but also embrace, of me sort of getting to the point where I thought, I could do this. I could sort it. I could bear a little bit of it, and being reminded, no, you can't.
You guys have known.
But that's because I have.
On that as well, like you guys have known a lot of pastors and within C3 and so forth. Are you worried that your kids are going to become the pastor's kids, you know?
Yeah, no, they're blessed, man.
Yeah.
Pastors' kids are so blessed.
We did at first worry. I remember
did
we
worry.
realised
Yeah.
that probably when I was a few months old, we went,
He's a PK.
we just created a pastor's kid. What have we done?
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
I think they're on their own journey, and that's what we preach
Yeah.
to our church and to them.
Yeah.
So I've never. We're very careful what we, you know, especially with them. Maybe as they get older, we'll be a bit different, but we're careful not to really complain about church in front of them and that kind of stuff. I mean, we definitely talk stuff out, but my goal with the littlies especially is to tell them how blessed we are to be pastors. So they know the church look after us. They know people pray for us.
We chose to do that because we'd heard, we asked enough people who said, you know what,
Yeah.
what pastors' kids seem to be more upset or messed up by is not what they, well, in some cases it is what they had to sacrifice for their parents' ministry, and we had a statement around that stuck with us. But the other thing was the way they felt their family, the parents, the pastors have been treated by the church.
Yeah.
So we've tried to counter that from day one and say and how blessed they are to be a part of the church.
So
and
if
how
someone
blessed
gives
we
us
are.
a gift, even if it's, you know, flowers or a washing machine we got once, which was really cool. I'm like, no, dryer, sorry. I'm like, look, boys, mum's got a dryer, you know. And the church taught us that, and the kids know.
I remember one of our low times, a certain person who's probably in this room, we heard this bang, 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 bang on the door. And what's going on here? Ran out, and here was this massive basket of like gifts and this car disappearing up the road. 2 people, 2.5. Oh, we know who they were, but we won't embarrass them. And that's just massive. Like that's got a loud volume.
So we've always tried to make sure that they feel blessed to be a part of the church, whenever there is sacrifice that we have to make. We try and
we're really honest about it.
Yeah, we try and be upfront and honest with them, and actually make it not feel like like was it? I don't know who said it again, but someone said they didn't choose this. They didn't choose this, so don't expect them to just shoulder it all like we do. So if we do something that because of what we're called to do that is going to have an impact on our family, and the kids are effectively sacrificing for it. We don't just go, well, that's too bad. That's what we have to do as pastors' kids. We'll try and make good on that in a sense, you know. Oh, guys, we call it ministry weekends now. Ministry weekend. It's going to be crazy. You're going to have to be babysit a bit. It's going to be busy. But
next weekend we'll go out.
Next weekend we're going to do this, or we preload it with a gift or something special that they're going to get.
I think you kind of answered the next question there, really about churches helping or hindering marriages, and that's the last question. We will move along because I know everyone's kind of keen for some coffee. I just wanted to.
There's one thing on that. Churches mess up, can really mess up dating for people. So just don't make it weird.
True.
You can really hinder relationships by making it too much of a fishbowl and too weird and awkward and too.
Because we've all been there, but then when you get married, you forget.
Yeah, when people start dating, don't suddenly ask them when they're going to get married. And when they get married, don't suddenly ask them when they're going to start to have children. And when they have their first child, don't suddenly start asking when they're going to get Just be kind.
Yeah. What about you, Melissa? How do churches help or hinder?
Coffee.
They help with coffee. I think, look, just on that, and on the kids' side, I think every child has its own journey, and that's what we're learning with Isaiah and Samuel in particular. And you know, in terms of help, they see the kids see the parents and the extended family who are all sitting in this room. You know, they see you and they know, like even this age, you know, like they're watching what's going on. And I remember one time when Zai was that's what my daughter would be doing. It's so gorgeous. So I just remember one time when Zai was in hospital and he'd been learning scriptures. I mean, we learn scriptures anyway, but in kids' church, and a doctor had just said, and this is one of the moments I think Zai really struggles with. He didn't realise that Zai was listening, and he said to me, Melissa, you need to understand how close he came to dying today. And he'd just been through resus, he'd been a very sick young kid, And Isaiah heard it. And, you know, it's one thing for a mum to hear that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I kind of wanted to slap him. But another thing for a 6 or 7-year-old to hear it. And at that point in time, I knew there was a moment in his journey that could really define what God is to him. And I said to him, buddy, what is it that God's saying to you right now? Like, you need to tell me because I can't do this for you. And he came out with that beautiful scripture, your grace is sufficient for me when I'm weak, you're strong. And it actually came after your prophecy over him that time. We learnt that scripture, and that was his journey. I couldn't have manufactured that. And, you know, he's struggling today still with that stuff, but in his head, that was his answer. So I think as a church, we need to understand that we come around our kids and they're developing their own journey, they're growing in their faith, and he was, you know, that was just such a great example of that. Like, I couldn't have met him there, and he knew it because he's in the house of God and he's hearing this stuff day in, day out. So anyway, that's just something I really wanted to share because it was pretty beautiful.
So are there any, and I'm sure, you know, questions you can ask these guys throughout the weekend. That's a good thing about a church camp. I just did want to do the data burst, but we will keep it as a data burst. It's supposed to be like, so those verses, do you see the verses? Yeah. So what I do, the way this works, guys, and then we'll break for coffee, I just say the verse or a part of the verse and then think of a tweet. So in a data, so just in a 40 words or less, tell me how that, in terms of your own marriage, how that scripture has engaged with you. What's happened in the past is guys have and girls have ended up, hasn't quite been a data burst, but we'll make it a data burst.
We'll do our best.
All right,
we
cool.
can do this.
So who wants to go first?
What's the first?
Okay, so it's Genesis 2:24, and they will become one.
Hashtag don't call your mother all the time.
Oh, I was going to do the next one.
No, you got to do that one
I
as
can
well.
do that one as well.
Yeah, and they'll become one.
Disconnect.
What's oneness look like for you guys?
3 in 1.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Quickly elaborate, because you got another 27 words.
Can't become one without knowing the one.
Okay, good. Excellent. You guys are good at this.
That was good.
Okay, Malachi 2:15.
We're on Facebook.
We're shallow.
We're shallow.
No, it's good.
It's a Pentecostal.
Succinct, it's good. Malachi 2:15. So guard yourself in your spirit and do not break faith with the wife of your youth.
Set up guardrails in advance to keep your marriage healthy.
Yep. Example of one?
Nick will never have a... I know.
How many words do I have left?
I'll add my words.
Yeah.
Nick will never have a meeting, a coffee, anything with the opposite sex without the doors open. He won't go to a cafe with someone of the opposite sex. There's just that clear guardrail way before the cliff. Alarm bells go off. We'll talk about this a bit more later, but you know,
guardrail stops
prevents
you
you
before
going
you get
over
close
the
to danger.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
it's pulling back from that. We love that concept.
Inside.
Yeah, I like that.
It's an Andy Stanley concept. It's awesome.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that too later. Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loves the church.
In all their imperfections and... No.
I was wondering where that was going.
All right, you're done.
I think husbands, like, Christ has the best...
Lay down your life.
Yeah, like Christ laid down his life, and he also, you know, he releases people. He wants people to do the work of the kingdom, and so do that. Let your wife do that as well. Like, you know, release them into what they're good at.
This one's often a controversial one, but it's one that's in the Word. You can go first, Melissa. Wives, submit to your husbands.
Yeah, too right. I reckon. I think, really, I'm actually really passionate about that. Like, I submit to God.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I'm submitting my life to Jesus Christ, so why wouldn't I submit it to the man who's given it to me to be the head of the house and to lay his life down for me? So I'm really clear about that. I just do it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Submit. real freedom is submission to good or godly authority.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Hebrews 13:4. Marriage should be honoured by all, and the marriage bed kept pure.
I think it's back to guardrails and just know that everyone's vulnerable. Like,
What does it mean though by marriage to be honoured by all?
Yeah, it takes more than you. That's where the body of Christ comes into all its.
Because it's certainly not honoured in society.
No, and marriage is strengthened not just from within but externally as well. So celebrate, honour, and elevate the concept of marriage and support.
And understand the goodness that comes from this room, even just with teaching like this. Most people don't get this. Like, you know, we underestimate how valuable, I'm going over my 27 words, but how valuable church is in educating and understanding how you can live a life that's full and great, you know. Even for the guys that are single here, you know, to kind of take in all this and learn. It's very unique. It doesn't happen.
Very special. Just want to thank everyone. Thank the kids for being very well behaved through that, and thank you guys. So normally we would have a Q&A, but what we'll do is we'll go and have our coffee. If you guys want to ask questions one-on-one, please come and ask them. And I'm just going to pray for you guys.
Thanks.
If we could pray for them as a church and give a good amen for them, because they are in quite challenging ministry circumstances, as any pastors are, and really just blessed to have you guys here. So, Father, I just want to thank you for Melissa and Nick and Isaiah and Samuel and Addie. We pray, our Lord, for this family, this very special family. We pray that you would continue to bless them with the fullness of your Spirit, that you would bring them closer into oneness with each other, with you. I pray, our Lord, for the kids, that they'll grow strong in you, they'll grow to love you and know you. They'll be people of the Word. They'll be people that are genuine and authentic in life and in action.
Yes.
We pray for the church at down at C3 there, and I pray, Father, that you would continue to speak there and your words would go out, your kingdom would be built and it would advance. And Lord, just continue in this little camp to advance your kingdom purposes here too. Thank you, Father, for Melissa and Nick. In Jesus' name, amen.